नमस्कार दोस्तों, बारिश का मौसम आ गया है। बारिश का मौसम बहुत ही खूबसूरत होता है और सोच के देखिए कि अगर इस बारिश के मौसम में आप अपने दोस्तों के साथ बाहर पकौड़े खाने जा रहे हैं, गाड़ी के अंदर बारिश गिर रही है और आप एक सिग्नल पर गाड़ी रोकते हैं और वहाँ पर एक छोटा सा बालक 5 साल 6 साल का उघाड़ा बिना कुछ पहने आपकी कार के पास आता है और आपसे भीख मांगने लगता है। क्या होता है दोस्तों? मूड खराब हो जाता है कि नहीं? कहीं ना कहीं आपकी सोशल अवेकनिंग आपको परेशान करने लगती है। कहीं ना कहीं आपको लगता है कि सेंस ऑफ जस्टिस मिसिंग है सोसाइटी में, कुछ तो करना चाहिए। सोशल जस्टिस दोस्तों बहुत बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट मुद्दा है सोसाइटी के लिए। जैसे एक एनसीईआरटी में बहुत अच्छे से लिखा हुआ है, जैसे आप अपने माँ का प्यार को फील कर पाते हैं इंट्यूटिवली, यू कैन फील द मदर्स लव। इन सिमिलर फैशन इंट्यूटिवली यू फील जस्टिस whether it is there or it's not there. Justice बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है, नॉट ओनली सोशल फंक्शनिंग के लिए बट ऑल्सो पॉलिटिकल फंक्शनिंग के लिए। तो दोस्तों, इस सीरीज में आज का टॉपिक है सोशल जस्टिस, मास्टर पॉलिटी इन 40 days. We are going to read social justice. Welcome to SRIRAM's IAS. I am Mayank Bhardwaj presenting this particular series. In 40 days we are going to master polity. So be with me and we are going to head for the next slide. Now ये जो सोशल जस्टिस की दोस्तों बात हुई है, ये आज से नहीं हो रही है, बहुत पहले से हो रही है, बहुत लंबे समय से ये बात चल रही है। अगर आप देखें तो इंडिया में एंशियंट टाइम में धर्मा, ये तो एस्टेब्लिशमेंट ऑफ धर्मा हैज टू बी देयर, राइटियसनेस, ओके, एंड ऑल्सो एट द सेम टाइम आप ग्रीक में देखें तो उधर भी कुछ ना कुछ बात हुई थी सोशल जस्टिस की। और भी जगह देखें तो बहुत सारी बातें हुई हैं। चाइना में देखें तो कन्फ्यूशियस ने कुछ कुछ बोला है। तो इंडिया और इंडियन वे ऑफ लाइफ में धर्मा की बात हुई है। चाइना में कन्फ्यूशियस ने बोला है कि अ किंग इन वन और द अदर मैनर इस्टेब्लिश द जस्टिस। कैसे करेगा एस्टेब्लिशमेंट ऑफ जस्टिस? एस्टेब्लिशमेंट ऑफ जस्टिस हो सकता है व्हेन दे पनिश, the king has to punish the wrongdoers and king has to reward the people who are righteous. Similarly, प्लेटो ने भी बोला है जस्टिस के बारे में। प्लेटो ने कहा है कि you have to understand what justice is in order to understand the value of justice. मॉडर्न टाइम्स में भी ये बात होती रहती है। नोरेल कमेटी की आप रिकमेंडेशंस पढ़ते रहते हैं, उसमें भी कहीं ना कहीं इफ यू फॉलो दैट एज अ सिविल सर्वेंट तो सोसाइटी में जस्टिस रिफ्लेक्ट होने लगता है। तो जस्टिस एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट मुद्दा है, जैसे इंट्रोडक्शन में अपन ने देखा भी। एंड इन ऑर्डर टू इम्प्लीमेंट द जस्टिस यू नीड टू इम्प्लीमेंट सेवरल प्रिंसिपल्स. What are these principles? Now look at this slide. There are 3 principles which can be implemented in order to apply justice in the society, in order to bring justice in the society. Equal treatment, special treatment to some sections, and proportionate justice. What is this equal treatment? Equality is a very important part and parcel of social justice. If equality is missing, forget about social justice. Now, equality in a society like India, if you see, India is a very diversified society, and few sections of the society are disadvantageous also. They are historically, educationally, economically disadvantageous. From a very long time, they do not have the educational background or the historical background needed for upliftment to come in the mainstream of the society, and that is the reason why this marginalized section of people is still downtrodden, is still underprivileged. And that is the reason why you need to have special treatment to this section and proportionate justice. So the broader principle is equal treatment. What is this equal treatment? Article 14 of the Constitution, if you see, equality before law, that all are equal in the front of law, all are equal in the eyes of law. That is the basic principle. यही फॉलो होता है ना भारत में। किसी भी तरह का लॉ बनाया जाए तो एक तरह से स्टेट को कोई भी हक नहीं है किसी भी तरह का डिस्क्रिमिनेशन करने का ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ रिलीजन, रेस, कास्ट, सेक्स, प्लेस ऑफ बर्थ। नहीं कर सकता है स्टेट। सिमिलरली, इफ यू सी देयर and also look in the Indian societies, because of this diversified nature and then you compare it with the American society. On one hand, if you take the American society, जब उनका constitution लिखा गया तो it was a homogeneous society. This simply means गोरे लोग थे सारे के सारे, और उसके बाद वहाँ पर establishment of democracy हुआ, वहाँ पर संविधान बना गया. It was a very homogeneous society और सारे के सारे क्रिश्चियन थे. अब रिलीजन भी एक फॉलो हो रहा है, साथ ही साथ लोगों में इतनी डाइवर्सिटी भी नहीं है. दैट इज द रीजन वाई दे टॉक अबाउट इंडिविजुअल राइट्स. बट आप इंडिया में देखिए, देर आर सो मेनी कास्ट, देर आर सो मेनी रिलीजन्स, सो मेनी लैंग्वेजेस. व्हाट हैपेंस हियर? We do not talk about individual rights much, although individuals have all the rights, all the fundamental rights are available to the individuals also, but we focus more on rights of a particular section or the rights of the group of people. And two different sections or two different groups, the equality has to be maintained between these two groups. That is what is equal treatment. Equal treatment of all the sections of the society. It has to be there. There has to be equal treatment of all the sections of the society. अब जब मैं बोलूँ sections of society, it can be anybody. One section is women, another section is disabled, third section is the underprivileged people, fourth section is the rich people, fifth section is the, अगर आप caste system में देखें तो Brahmins और Rajputs. So sections can be many in the society. Few of them are privileged, few of them are underprivileged or marginalized. Okay, so this is the story of different sections. This is a broader principle and it tells that there has to be equal treatment by law and there has to be equal value, worth and consideration attached to all the sections of the society and also to the individuals. This is a broad principle which is very important if you want to implement social justice in your society. Now, second principle, which is a exception to the first one, is special treatment. Now, if you have equal treatment to all the sections of society, why you need this special treatment to few people or few sections? Why is this needed? Because of the simple reason that they were marginalized, because of the simple reason that they are downtrodden, and because of the simple reason that they are underprivileged from a very long time, from centuries. If you see historically and educationally, they are backward, and that's the reason socially also they are backward. And the worst thing is that social disability also results in economic disability. Most of the manual scavenging work has been done by the people of the Dalit community. And how much does a manual scavenger, although it has been now abolished, but how much does that person earns? So, the poor people also belongs to a particular caste in our country, which is very wrong. The sense of justice is awakened when you see this picture. Everybody wants justice in the society, but how much are you, willing to sacrifice for it? That is something we are going to see in the John Rawls theory. But coming back to our topic, special treatment to some sections, and these some sections are very important sections of the society. Huge population is there in these sections, and unfortunately, historically, because of several historical reasons, because of the sanctions given by the religion and the literature, they remained underprivileged, they remained marginalized. Now, the third one is proportionate justice. So, broader principle is equal treatment. You need to give equal treatment to all the sections, all the individuals. At the same time, some section needs some special treatment, positive discrimination, affirmative action. Now, point is, what kind of special treatment will you give? Affirmative actions. We have also studied this in the class of equality, the last class which happened. What is this affirmative action? Through the policies of the government, through the schemes of the government, through laws and legislation, the conditions and facilities are created in the society in order to help the marginalized and the underprivileged section to come into the mainstream. Now, that can be, starting a scholarship scheme for them, food security for them, good nutrition, health, education. There are so many basic facilities are there which needs to be given to this section of people, isn't it? And on the other hand, you also give reservations or quota, so as to change the social composition of the preferred positions in the society. Now, what is this preferred positions in the society? Preferred positions, it can be services like the Group A and Group B services, or admissions to educational institutes of national importance such as IIT, such as IIM, AIMS, etc. So earlier, if you see, only few people who were of the high class, educated people, rich people, had the access to these services, had the access to these seats in the admission in the educational institutes. But because of this reservation policy or the quota system, the social composition of these preferred positions have changed over the period of time. So that is in another way how affirmative action works. This positive discrimination works, and it is based on the principle of special treatment to some sections of the society. Article 14 not only says that equality before law has to be there, it also says that there shall be equal protection of law. That's the meaning of equal protection of law. Principle number 2. Principle number 3, proportionate justice. What is proportionate justice? Now, if you see proportionate justice, it simply means that the award which you get has to be equal to the work you are doing. Now, kind of work which you do, if your work depends on skills, if it's a dangerous work, if it needs great amount of application of mind, if it needs great amount of hard work, if it needs risk-taking capabilities, leadership capabilities, then the awards which you get will be more than the job which requires less application of mind or no application of mind. The job which is repetitive, which is menial, or which does not require much hard work or risk-taking capabilities. I hope you are getting it. Again, coming back to the same example which we have given in the last class, can you reward a mechanic and a mechanical engineer in the same manner? That's not possible. Mechanical engineer requires a lot much of skill development, lot much of education. A person has to put in hard work. A person has to garner several skills to be better at those engines and the designs of the engines a mechanical engineer has to make. Whereas compare him with the mechanic, he is doing a repetitive job. Although that's a very important position in the society. If you do not have mechanics, your vehicles won't work. But we are talking about the reward system. It is very important for the functioning of the society. Understand that. For the functioning of the society, proportionate justice is of great use. I hope you are getting it. Now, these three principles which are there needs to be harmonized. If you take out any of these principles out of the equation, what's going to happen? The social justice project is going to suffer. None of this can be eliminated. All the three of them has to be there for the better functioning of society. Moving on. Now, this person called John Rawls is a very important person in history, and he talks about a theory and how justice and social justice has to be maintained in the society. So he talks about this veil of ignorance. For a minute, forget about your social status. Okay, let's say you have been appointed by the good Lord to make the conditions and order and rules and regulations of the society. Okay, now you are making the rules and regulations of the society, and you can have several sections of people, different groups of people. They can be divided into castes, they can be divided into religion, they can be divided into gender. The diversity needs to be maintained. So you will say to the God that yes, diversity has to be maintained. The next question which the God asks you is, do you really want the underprivileged to be underprivileged? And do you really want the rich to be rich? your question would be, the logical question would be that where would I be born? Okay, so a kind of self-interest comes into picture. Remember that boy, जब आप जा रहे थे कार के अंदर दोस्त बारिश में पकौड़े खाने, रिमेंबर दैट बॉय. अब उस केस में क्या चाहते हैं आप? कुछ ना कुछ होना चाहिए ना. उस लड़के को हेल्थ, सैनिटेशन, न्यूट्रिशन, एजुकेशन सब कुछ मिलना चाहिए. बट आर यू विलिंग टू पे 50% or 60% of your salary for these kind of social works? You will say, no. See, I can pay at least 10% of it, but do not ask 50-60%. So somewhere the self-interest kicks in. Okay, so your capacity to sacrifice is not immense. It is limited. And that is the reason why self-interest kicks in. So John Rawls says that to establish the social justice in the society, we have to follow rationality, not some moral awakening which happens when you see, when these moments happen, when you feel something for the other person. But it has to be based on rationality. And rationality, according to John Rawls, comes when you have little bit of self-interest involved in everything. So again, coming back to our equation, you are standing with God and God is saying that, okay, you decide what kind of society do you want. And remember one condition, that you can be born in any of the groups which you are making. What would you do? That okay, if I am born as a rich person, then I don't want to pay much taxes. So I don't think 50-60% of taxes needs to be taken from the rich people. Okay, 10%, 20, 30%, till that it's okay, but not more than that. So you want fair rules for the rich people. Now think about a situation when if you're born as a marginalized person, then what would you say? That okay, then we need to have the basic minimum facilities or conditions available. There should be schools, there should be hospitals, there should be good nutrition, sanitation, safe housing, all those things needs to be there. Now the point is, in order to have all these things, you also need to take taxes. But you can be born anywhere. You can be either born here, you can be born there. So you don't want to pay much taxes also. At the same time, you also want basic minimum facilities. So you have to come at a balanced state where neither the rich people nor the poor people have to sacrifice too much. Okay, the poor people gets all the facilities which are required because you can be one of them. You can be born among them. And at the same time, the rich people doesn't have to pay too much of the taxes. So you have reached a rational point of view. And this veil of ignorance, what kind of ignorance was there? The ignorance of your present social condition. For example, if you are born as a high class person, you will take only one decision, that I have to live my life in the perfect manner and I don't want to pay taxes. If you are born as a poor person, what would you say? Or a socially backward person, or a Dalit, what would you say? That see, we have been handling this kind of behavior from a very long time. I do not have food, I do not have basic necessities, my children are suffering and begging. My condition needs to be improved. I doesn't care about whether you take 50% tax or 60% tax from the rich person. So in order to come to a rational point of view, you have to be ignorant about your present social standing, your present financial standing. You have to come to the neutral point of view, stand with God and make the rules of the society, make the orders and the functioning of the society. And you can be born anywhere. So you want the whole society to be just. That is what is John Rawls' theory of justice. I hope you have got it. Moving on to the next slide. Now, preserving social justice. This is one thing very beautifully said by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. He says that a just society is that society in which ascending sense of reverence and descending sense of contempt is dissolved, Now, what is this ascending sense of reverence? The reverence of the lower caste toward the upper castes. And what is this descending sense of contempt? The contempt of the upper caste towards the lower castes. So, ascending sense of reverence and descending sense of contempt. So, we live in a society where we see the ascending sense of reverence and the descending sense of contempt. And he wants it to be dissolved. When these things is dissolved into a creation of a compassionate society, that will be a just society. So, compassion taking over your social conditioning which has resulted in the present system of society, the social structuring of the Indian society into the upper caste and so-called lower castes. Government has to intervene, government has intervened. There are so many laws, rules and regulations also. Rights, constitutional fundamental rights are given in order to change the social composition of not only the preferred jobs, but of the education institutions as well. At the same time, discrimination is reduced to a great extent. But not everything is achieved. अभी दिल्ली बहुत दूर है. Still we see caste divides, still we see divides on the basis of classes, still we see divides on the basis of religion, still we see discrimination. Okay, so persistent decisions has to be taken. Now, what kind of decision? Again, the same thing which I was telling you. Decision from the government. Also, the moral, social awakening which an individual have. Your decision making has to be dependent on some kind of morality or ethics. Okay, you cannot endlessly discriminate a caste based on their birth. So it's a useless thing, but it happens. And then denial of opportunities. See, the equal opportunities are the most important thing if you have to change the social structuring in India. If you give opportunities to people who are underprivileged, who are marginalized, what you are doing? You are creating conditions in the society for them to change. And how to give opportunities? On one hand, you can provide the reservations, that is one thing. And on the other hand, you can create conditions. How to create condition? The basic minimum facilities. Basic minimum facilities needs to be provided. Sanitation, housing, nutrition, education, health, all these things. So these are the two ways how you create opportunities in the society. Think about that boy again, whom you met on the signal, the boy who was begging. If you give him, if the state gives him right nutrition, sanitation facilities, housing to his family, education and health, what will happen? There is a great possibility that child can become something good and better and great. But if his social condition persists and remains as it is, then nothing is going to change for that boy. He would be begging year after year on the same signal. So it is in our hands to change the society, isn't it? Because in a democratic setup, we are the ones, the citizens are the ones who choose the representative, who makes the government and finally who makes the policies. Do not forget Gandhiji's talisman. NCERT book के सबसे पीछे लिखा रहता था, very powerful thing, that it is for the lawmakers, that when you make law, you should keep in mind the most suppressed person you have seen in the life. And all the laws, rules, regulations, policies, schemes which you are making should benefit that suppressed person, the most suppressed person which you have seen. It's a great understanding if the lawmakers start to pursue that, lawmakers start to follow that. Now, in order to implement or achieve this social justice thing, there have been disagreements in the society. भाई पाना तो है, करना तो है, social justice होना चाहिए. अब कैसे करें? That is one debate. So few people who are liberal in nature. Now liberal in nature does not mean that thought wise. Liberal in nature where they are also focusing on less role of the government and more role of the market and free markets and open competitions. Liberals on one hand, and you have the socialists on the other hand. So open competition with free markets, that is one thing. The other thing is the state intervention simply means the socialist point of view, which is the best strategy. Both have the pros and cons. Now, what does the liberal say? They say that the state is not needed and state should exist and its role should only be limited to few things. What are these few things? Foreign exchange dekh lo. Security of our borders, ensure that for the security of the people who are living within the country, see that to maintain the law and order. Those should be the only role of the state. There should be minimum role of the state and maximum power should be given to the fair competition, should be given to the open competition and the free market. Now, if you ask to anybody who is so liberal and wants very less for the state, that how you are going to change the social composition of the society? Simple answer would be that, you know what? If you want to change the organization of the society, let free market and open competition work. And in the free market and in open competition, the society will be reorganized. Those people who would be getting, who are having great skills, and it does not matter from which religion they belong to, from which caste they belong to, from which gender they belong to. But if they are really skillful, they are ready to take risks, they are ready to compete in the open market, then they are going to come higher in the ladder. And all those people who do not do so, does not matter what is their social standing. They can be of the higher caste, but they are unable to compete, they are going to come down. If they have less hard working capacity, risk taking capacity or less skills, they are going to come down. So this is how you are going to reorganize the whole society with open market, open competition. That is how it will be done. So that is their logic. But think about it, does this logic really works on ground? Even in the most liberalized countries such as the United States of America, state plays a very important role. The social services which are given by the states are great. Education is given by the state, health is given by the state, housing, sanitation, all these things, all the facilities of nutrition are given by the state, even in the most liberalized of the societies. So some kind of government intervention is very much required. This open competition and free market does help in several things. Innovation, creation, creativity, efficiency, new products, development and growth. That is all what you get from open market. But at the same time, think about the Indian society. The people are already underprivileged. The people are already marginalized. And if you throw them in the open competition in the free market, they will remain there. In order to change that system, in order to change the social structuring of the society, in order to end the perpetual inequality in the society, government intervention is very much important. The state intervention is very much important. I hope you are getting it. Okay? I hope you are getting it. So, state intervention, it can be quick, it can be very effective. Okay? ये ओपन कंपटीशन और फ्री मार्केट से सोसाइटी का रीऑर्गेनाइजेशन होगा, पता नहीं कितने साल लग जाएंगे. But one scheme or one policy of the government or reservation or quota policy of the government directly impacts the situation on ground, directly brings the effective equality in the system. Okay? So the state intervention is too much required, but there are also negative. Sometimes this state intervention turns into freebies, distribution of freebies, isn't it? Which is very much criticized in modern economies. State should create conditions by giving education and health. But state also gives freebies which wastes too much of public money. So there are negatives also. Okay. So I hope you have understood the concept of justice, the concept of social justice, how this social justice needs to come in the society, how to implement this social justice project, how the social justice can be reflected in the society, the theory of John Rawls, the veil of ignorance, and the constant intervention of the state in order to establish the social justice in the society, which is very much needed. What if justice is not there? If justice is not there, there will be instability in the society, anarchy in the society, chaos in the society. One section would be having feeling of resentment against the other sections of the people. Okay? Sometimes, this situation escalates to the level of civil war, which is not desirable, and that is the reason why social justice is an important thing to be implemented on ground. I hope you have understood this whole topic. If you have any question, you can write to me in the comment section and I will answer that. Thank you very much for joining me in this class, and we are going to come up with the next very important class in the next lecture. So thank you very much. Jai Hind.